Alright, we're going to replace a MacBook Air screen, and here we have our replacement screen that we're going to be using. As you can see there, it's brand new. This one is cracked, and as you can see, it is the A2179 model. This is a MacBook Air 2020. If you're doing this and you just want to make sure you don't get your screws all mixed up, make sure that you get one of these magnetic pads. So what you do is, as you start taking them off, you start putting them the way that they're being removed from your actual Mac. So you're gonna put this one here, this one here, this one here, and so forth, so you have everything where it goes, because they are different sizes, so you don't want to get the wrong screw in the wrong place. So this is why we mentioned that before. As you can see, the top screws are a little longer. These are the 4 screws that came out of here, and then these screws are different sizes than the ones up here. So you want to use a mat like this one, so if you've never done this before, you know exactly where everything goes later. Then as far as popping the cover off, you have an area right here where you can get your fingernails in there, and it just pops right up, just like that. You can set that off to the side. Now you have your MacBook open. Now we're going to show you step by step what we're going to do to remove the screen. You can't just start taking these screws out. There's other things that need to be removed before you get to these screws. So remember, this is a MacBook Air 2020. Okay, so you want to make sure you're using plastic tools. You don't want to be using metal tools around here. So right under here, we have our battery connector. So we're going to loosen these screws here just to get a little bit more leverage to get the battery connector out. We want to make sure the battery's completely disconnected before we go and start doing everything else. So we're going to make sure we disconnect the battery first. So with the battery disconnected, it just slides out this way. But I did remove these 2 screws. Again, when you remove screws, you want to make sure you set them somewhere where you're going to know which one goes where. So I have a magnet pad to my left, which you can see on the video, where I have these in the exact same position, because with Apple, different screws, different sizes. But once you have the battery disconnected, you're a little bit more at ease in working with it. I do have one of these anti-static on my arm and onto the bottom of the Mac. You might see it there. So this just makes the job a little bit less stressful for the tech. So while we're speaking about screws, you want to make sure that you are very careful and keep in mind that you have sensitive components here. Just putting that out as a disclaimer, because if you are doing this for the first time, you want to make sure that you keep in mind that you do have sensitive components underneath the screws. You got to have the right amount of pressure. No pressure, right? So keep that in mind. Again, since we have the battery disconnected, I am now a little bit more confident in getting metal tools near where I'm working. So having that battery disconnected should be your #1 priority. As soon as you take that cover off, you want to get to the battery. Once you get that out of the way, then you're free to move around. Again, it's just a habit. I've created a good habit of always wearing these. I lived in the desert where it's very dry. You get up and you walk from one place to another in a carpet, and then you walk back, and guess what? You got a charge on yourself. It's even happened just flipping a light switch. So you want to make sure you create good habits, so you're never going to damage someone else's precious device. And now if you do, then you're in trouble. So once you got your plates off and your screws and you've aligned them properly, you still have two other screws here. You use a different tip, and there's these two black ones that you'll see there. Again, have an organized way of doing this. If not, have someone like myself do it. Some people are just petrified. I can tell you horror stories where people have decided to work on their own devices and brought them in. So see how that's loose now? But there's an antenna that's right beneath these two plates, so there's still more stuff to be removed, so we're going to do that next. The antenna that goes here is actually these two wires. Let me bring this up to the camera. So there's a screw right there that has this plate over these two wires, and these two wires are a pain later to get back in there. But anyway, you have to remove it because one antenna goes right over this plate, one antenna goes over this plate. That's how you get Wi-Fi. So we will go ahead and remove that next. Okay, I put on some more lighting here because you do need to kind of tug on this carefully and very carefully. But this is pretty much the assembly. As you can see there, this is how it comes off. These are the two wires that we mentioned before. So this is basically your Wi-Fi antenna assembly, and the wires each go to one side, so you can have more of a broad range of Wi-Fi. So this is what makes your Wi-Fi work, basically. We're going to set that to the side. Believe it or not, so far we've removed 25 screws, but we're not done. We still got 3 more here and 3 more here. That makes a total of 31 screws that are going to be removed just to replace the screen on this MacBook Air. So we're going to go ahead and start removing the screws for the hinges. So interesting, but with the screws on the hinges, there's yet another tip that we use. So let me just slide this over. And again, make sure you set your screws in clusters. I'm very neat when it comes to that. That's just the way that I operate. I never take anything for granted because you never know. Different screws are different sizes, and I just prefer to be an organized person when I'm working on devices. So I set them in clusters. I'm going to slide my blue mat a little bit and you can see how I got them here. Well, you might not be able to see it all, but anyway, there we go. There and here and here. Everything is clustered and everything is going to the side exactly the same way that it's been removed. That's just the way I work. That's just the way I operate. And with electronics, taking out screws and just putting them off to the side and not having your own system that you have been familiar with, you're gonna have issues. And for example, putting a longer screw somewhere where a short screw may go with Apple products, you can damage electronics below it. That's the reason why they have a smaller screw. It makes sense. But if you don't pay attention to detail, you're going to damage components. So now that we have that out, we can freely now remove the actual screen from the body. We're going to do that next. So it's going to be hard for me to capture the whole thing, both sides coming out in the screen at the same time, but as you can see, I have the screen opened, kind of like if you were sitting down in your living room using your laptop. You're going to have it in that position. Okay, so the screen is opened up. Let me see if I can say it like that. And then in that position, the hinge can slide away Let's see if I can do that in one motion. So it's just going to slide. You see that? You're going to take what you have here and you're going to slide it away, down from the screen. Okay, because there's a little hook right here. This part is hooked in to go over this hinge. So you have to get it at an angle so the hook goes straight down like that. Okay? Very important. Now this is completely off. Unfortunately, this was cracked. And it happens to the best of us. It's happened to me on a Surface Pro I used to have. But this was cracked putting on this cover on it. So unfortunate. A 2020 MacBook Air. You try to protect it, get a good cover on it, and you end up damaging it. Like I said, it happened to me back in 2015 with the Surface Pro 3. So it happens to the best of us. Now, when it comes to covers, I am going to recommend a cover. You'll see it on the description, on the links of this video. And I'll put a description link there so you can see that. And it's what I would recommend for iPads and everything. So now that we got that off, now we're going to put the new screen on. So here's a pro tip. I like to see which way the hinges came out. And what I like to do is with the replacement is put the hinges the same way. So you can use a small set of pliers and kind of position the hinges the same way. I'm trying to do this while filming, and the same thing on the other side. Let's see, here we go. Hinges sometimes are a little stubborn, so you want to put them in the same way the old ones came out, because that's going to ensure an easier install for you. So the way I have it now set up, as you can see there, you can see the new screen already there with the plastic on it. You can see the hinges already on there, and right here you have the other hinge as well. So all we need to do now is put the screws in, and then we're going to lay it flat. Once your hinges are in, you can fold it flat, put it back the way you were working in originally, and then proceed in putting everything back. So once you have it flat on the side, you just on its back, you just want to make sure you go through these screws and just make sure that they're tight. Just make sure that they're not loose in any way. You want to make sure you just get your plastic Wi-Fi antenna assembly in there just like that. And remember, it's got to get snugged in there. Make sure you look at all these components here. Make sure you're not crimping anything. Get it in there nice and snug. So then just kind of look out for these connectors here. You want to make sure they're on the top side of this, not underneath it. You can easily crimp it. You don't want to do that. And then you're ready to go. So if you remember, we had these 4 screws. They go into these locations here on that bar, and that's the next thing we're going to do. So once you have these screws put in, very important, don't forget to connect your Wi-Fi connectors. So they're very, very tiny. You just got to get them right on top of that little circle with a dot in it, and then just put it in there just nicely. And then we'll put our little cover on it with the screw. So I just wanted to point out, to get those antennas connected, like I mentioned before, it is a little bit of a pain. It takes a steady, very steady hand, precision. I even had to put one of these on to look a little bit, into more fine detail as I was getting near it, and I had to use one of these guys to kind of pull the antenna cable a little bit more that way so I can get it to fall right where it needs to fall in. It's a little bit of a task, but you want to make sure you get it done right. Otherwise, you're going to have your customer telling you later that they don't have Wi-Fi. They got a new screen, but they don't have Wi-Fi, and that's the reason why. So then you get your plate in there. Make sure you align it. Again, feel free to use precision tools to get it in there just right, and then just put your screw in there. That's that. If you remember, we had the two black screws that go here, so that's our next step. Get your two black screws right in there. That's gonna hold down this piece together onto the board. You do have to constantly switch tips on these MacBook devices, and I don't know, it's just a little bit of a pain when you have to be switching one tip on your driver to the other, just because they're using different tips throughout the whole area. But that's just the way it is, and you just have to have all the tips. Total, we have 4 total tips for everything that involves the removal of the screen. So I'm going to post those tips according to the numbers that you see on them. I don't know how well you can see them on camera. It's a little blurry, but there we go. So maybe not. There we go. So this is a T6 tip, and I'll just put all those numbers in there because there's a total of 4 of them just to do what we did today. So then you want to make sure you put this connector in there nice. Make sure you feel that clicking that you feel when you put connectors in. And then we're going to go ahead and put all these plates or covers in. You want to make sure you initially got them out and put them in the same way you took them out. Use the same screws. Remember, we talked about that in the beginning, so make sure you do that. So with the plates already in there, next thing we're going to do is these 2 screws that we had taken out earlier in the video, the screws that were for this housing here that has a connector to the battery. We're going to get that down, connect the battery, flip it over and test it before we get our cover in, just to make sure everything's working. This screw right here is a little bit, doesn't feel like it was going in, but that's because both of these screws are like on a little metal plate that's just hanging out of here. So don't worry about it if you don't feel it that it's in there. It's in there. And then what you want to do is connect the battery back so we can test it. And let's see, let's use our plastic spudger to get this guy in there. And once we do that, we'll be able to flip it over and connect it, make sure it's working. go. Get that in there. It's a little bit of a rough connection, but I could easily put that in first and then these two, but with the battery in, I just thought about it. I probably didn't want to mess around with more electronics, so I did the battery as the last thing. So let's go ahead and try it out. So that's good news. There we go. So once that's done, we're going to shut it down because we're going to actually flip it over again and put the screws back the way they came. So now that we got everything tested and working, now we're free to put our back plate on there. If you notice right here in the corner, you can see that I'm still connected to the Mac. I'm going to put this black protector that came with it in there. And the reason, guys, like I said, it's just habit. So having this here in the bottom right hand corner that's tied into this is, let's say I'm doing this here and I drop this on the board, or I just don't want to risk anything. But as you saw, everything's working just fine. Once you get everything in there, then you are free to take out your connector, and we're going to put our cover back in there, just like so. And remember, at the beginning we talked a little bit about this, how the screws are all going to go back in there. Let me take out this thing off my wrist, but basically this is what we're using. I forgot what this is called, but it's one of those things that you need to have to protect someone else's electronics. You never know. I used to live in a desert, like I mentioned before, and you just create a charge just from walking everywhere because it's so dry, and as you're walking about, you're rubbing your feet, creating electricity. If you have a house with carpet everywhere or area rugs, and you live in a dry or semi-dry climate, or even if you don't live in a dry climate but you live in an area where there is times of the year where it's not as humid because you don't have a lot of rain, you might just have a few months of dryness, no rain. Believe it or not, the humidity levels can drop low enough where you're creating a charge, basically generating electricity, and you don't want to damage someone else's device just because you didn't take the precautions while you were working on their device. So again, use this. Forgot what it's called, but I'll post a link in the description so you can get one. They really do help. I personally have never had to deal with someone's device being damaged because of static electricity, because I always wear one. If you are working on small electronics and you just finished repairing someone's electronics and then want to wonder why after you did the repair no longer works, that could have been a possibility. So make sure that you are practicing good habits as you repair someone else's electronics, because it is a big deal. Big deal. I started out working on electronics years ago, back when there was a big craze where everyone was building their own computers. Nowadays, gamers still have custom-made PCs. I mean, these PCs are expensive. But this was before Macs and different computers already were made pretty much to your specs, almost. I'm saying almost. And the A+ certification back in the day was a big deal. So it's something that we got. I got my Microsoft certified professional, and I was gonna go for the full, but decided to continue working on small electronics. So once you have this in there, you're good to go. I like to leave the plastic in there for the customer so they can have like the brand new car feel, so to speak. And then also the plastic inside as well. I don't take it out, but I show them that it's working, and that's pretty much it. So thank you for watching. You all have a great day. Please subscribe to our channel. We would greatly appreciate it.